whole entire life.
New Gritability, a podcast about the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. I'm your podcast host, Adam Clausen, and with me in the studio today is a gentleman that I am excited to introduce, David Spivey Jr. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Very, very appreciated.
All right. So we kind of put this one together on short notice. And listen, when John Orlando calls and says, man, I have someone that you have to meet, like you drop everything and you come running. So literally I did. Like, man, I was excited to be able to come in here, touch base with you while you're in town, because you're not originally from Las Vegas. Where are you from?
So originally from Jackson, Mississippi, moved to Los Angeles, California. So raised in Los Angeles. So LA is where I call home.
LA is still home today.
Today.
Well, awesome. I'm grateful that we have you here live in person in the studio, because this pretty beautiful studio here, right?
No, most definitely. This is like dream come true.
Yeah, this is the place, man. So you and I really haven't had any conversations.
No,
we
zero.
got introduced via text. John Orlando calls, says, man, I have an amazing individual. He's got an incredible story. So I'm going to really turn it over and leave it to you to kind of paint the picture here, open things up. What is this amazing story?
So this amazing story really is, and I love the fact what your intro was. I was like, wow, that's like my story in a nutshell. At 15, joined a gang. By the age of 17, arrested for murder, attempted murder, shooting occupied dwelling, and later I had charged with a conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. And fought my case for a couple of years. 2010, get found guilty, get sentenced, go to prison with that the 2nd of December. My mother dies January 18th the following year. Then my brother dies the next year. I'm in Pelican Bay. You know, I'm just thinking to myself.
Pelican Bay State Prison.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And all I'm thinking to myself is like, wow, my mom and brother's last years on earth, I spent in jail for something that doesn't mean anything, something that has no value. You know, during my transformation, I used to tell guys, you can be a Crip, Blood, or a Sureño for 30, 40 years, and that means nothing in the bank. You know, you can never go in there and you can't get a loan on street cred. So what are you doing it for? You know, you're doing everything. Everybody always says how much they hate jail. Yet they do everything in their possibility. Like, let me go. Let me just, I know I'm not supposed to sell drugs. I'm going to do that. No, I'm not supposed to be shooting people, but I'm going to do that. I know I should, whatever it is, they do it, and then they go to jail, and they're crying about it. And, you know, I was the guy in there, didn't have remorse for my victim immediately. Anytime I was ever sad, it was only because I wanted to be home. You know, it wasn't because I was like, oh, what I did was bad. It was like, man, I don't want to be in jail no more. So when my mom died, I was in a reception center. I was in Tracy, California, with the DVI, dual vocational institution. And she died, and I remember breaking down crying, and my counselor told me, don't let your mother's death be in vain. She said, do you know what I mean by that? I said, no, just break it down to me. She says, the whole time your mom was alive, you made her cry, make her smile beyond the grave. Next day, I signed up for my GED, got a GED in 2 days. These guys that I was in prison with for
Hold on. How'd you get a GED in 2 days?
So they offered so you do, I think, was it one part of the test in 1 day, and then the math, you come back and do it the next day?
You literally just went in there and
yeah,
they let you take them both? Because I know in a lot of places, like you got to get on a waiting list.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's a year just to get in a class, to get in line to take the test, and you were able to knock it out just like that.
Yeah, so when what was it? They came around with like, anybody want to get a GED? And this is right after I had got the news, so I said, yeah, I signed up. So we had to take a math test, a pre-test, to see if we can qualify for this expedited GED testing. I scored just enough on the math to pass. And so I went in there and took the GED and passed it in 2 days.
Wow.
And which was like really a super blessing because it allowed me not to have to, when I got to Pelican Bay State Prison, I didn't have to get put in education. A lot of guys have to go to education. And even getting on that list, like you said, is really, really difficult sometimes. And you can be ready for a year. It's like, well, there's 3-4 guys in front of you. And so that allowed me to, and also like my reading level was 12.9. And so it allowed me to be a clerk, get on the clerk's list.
Now explain what that means. For those who don't understand, that's pretty significant as well.
Yeah, so like clerks usually make really good, I say really good, prison money. You know, those are the pay that start off like 42 cents. You know, and I know it sounds so crazy. People are crying about making $15.
Yeah.
But in prison, 42 cents, you're like, okay, I can go to the store. You know, I can buy food, I can buy hygienes, I can do whatever I want to do.
You can survive.
Yeah, and then usually clerk jobs are always near copy machines and office supplies, and those are like gold on the yard.
Which means what?
More money. So
there you go.
You have opportunities to do copies, canteen, and sometimes you barter for even better things. You know, I know a guy. This guy was really, really handy. So he was a Muslim guy. He's always asking me for paper clips. So one day I was like, I gave him a box one time for free. And he's like, hey, can you give me some more? And I was like, what are you using for? He was making Afro picks.
Really?
Yeah.
Out of paper clips?
Out of paper clips. And he also used them as plugs. So he would get soda cans and bust them open. Because, on this super high maximum security prison, they sold soda cans that you can literally cut somebody's throat. And I mentioned that because I had a pair of Dolce & Gabbana glasses my mother gave me for a birthday present. And they had like a little metal right here and they took them from me. And I'm like, dude, you guys have horseshoes and soda cans here. I'm not going to break my glasses to stab somebody. And so he would open the cans up and make like the little extra plugs.
Yep.
And it was like, it was so crazy. Just being in jail, you really see how much lost potential is inside. Mm. You know, I've met some guys who can fix anything that is broken. They can enhance it. Anything that's electrical, they can fix it up. I know guys that can look at you and do a portrait and add stuff to it. They can put you and your wife in it or something like that. And it's like, and how much time you got? Oh man, you know, I got 5 life sentences. What the? Oh yeah, I got life without.
So tell me about that. If you met all these people in prison with so much talent, so much potential, why would you say, like, what are your thoughts? How did they end up there? Why is there so much in those environments?
My personal belief is this, right? A lot of people that are in prison come from broken neighborhoods, and broken neighborhoods have no resources. And so just because of a socioeconomical status, most people are forgotten about in this country, you know. And to say that, I also want to just caveat that way, it doesn't make an excuse for doing a crime, because there's also people who've risen to the top from the same neighborhoods. But for the most part, it's easier to say F it and just give up and take what's in front of you. You know, no matter what your true desires are. And I knew this because when I was in prison on my road to redemption and rehabilitation, I started not only just going to self-help classes, but I started teaching them. I was a facilitator.
Okay.
And I was like, the way The Rock works out all the time is the way that I was studying self-help all the time. In the cell, on the yard, you know, talking about it at work, going back to groups, you know. I did this exercise, and I had everybody raise their hand and tell me what they wanted to be before they ever joined the gang. And you got guys with tattoos all on their faces. Man, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a fireman. And one guy says, man, excuse me for this, homies, but I used to want to be a cop. And, you know, one guy, I wanted to be an architect. And I'm just listening to him. And so I'm asking him, This is what you wanted to be. So this was you at your truest form. How did you go from this to this deplorable person? And once you figure that out, now the next step is, how do you get back to that essence?
Mm.
Because in that essence, you see things pure, you see things optimistically rather than pessimistically. Because when you become deplorable, everything is either against you, not fair. Oh my gosh, it's just a woe is me syndrome.
Sure. Well, you getting to that point to where you're helping others see that, obviously that means you yourself went through that transition. So how did you go from, your own introspective journey and becoming more self-aware to then working with others?
So for me, it was the first step was when I was in Pelican Bay State Prison, getting closer to God. My mom always say, when you don't know what to do, go to God. So I had to get my relationship with God correct. I had to start allowing him to lead me instead of me trying to be the leader. Because as I always tell people, my best thinking led me to squat in the coffin. And for those who don't know, squat in the coffin is how they search you when they're doing the cell search. You squat down like a catcher and you give them 3 good coughs to make sure nothing is in your rectum. Sorry for that descriptive, but I feel you guys need to know.
No, I'm glad you took the time to explain that, because a lot of times we gloss right over the prison stuff.
Right.
Like, there's just like a mutual understanding. Like, I know what you're talking about,
Right.
but I want to make sure everybody else. And it's important that people recognize, because there are certain aspects of prison that are just totally dehumanizing.
Exactly.
And then we wonder why so many of us coming out struggle, you know what I mean, to reacclimate to normal society. So it's important that you explain things like this.
Right.
I appreciate that.
No problem, man. So that's what I said. Like, dude, my best thinking, my most $1 million idea was now as a result squatting coffin. And so I'm like, it's time to change the way I think. So I started getting to the Bible. Then I dropped some points. My custody level dropped. So I went from a level 4 prison to a level 3. So
what's the difference there, a 4 to a 3?
3 yards usually have more programming, just more of openness. Because on the level 4, I was on a 180, so there's a 180 then a 270, and that's based off design. The 180 is built like a horseshoe, and then the 270 is like kind of more so, 270 degrees, folks. I'm trying to think of how it looks, but it's kind of weird. And the 180s are like really, really restrictive. Those like, as a prison would say, the worst of the worst, the most of the deplorables, and 270s is like, you're still not really good, but you're not as bad as these guys. And then level 3 is, we don't really trust you like that, but we'll give you a little bit more things to do. You go to a level 2, is like, just understand we'll never trust you, but here's even more stuff to do. And then a level 1 is like, I don't trust you, but I don't think you're dumb enough to mess this off.
I love your explanation.
That's it in a nutshell, man. So so I went to a level 3, and the most funniest thing ever is that this Asian guy who didn't gangbang, but ran with the Southsiders. Yeah, that's a whole, as John said, it's a whole episode or movie in itself. And he's like, "Hey, you want to go to college?" I'm like, "Dude, no, I don't have any money to go to college. I'm in prison right now. What the hell am I?" He's like, "No, you can go for free." And it's like, all right, sure, I'll take some. So I took Spanish, then I took some business classes.
Now, who are you taking these college classes through?
At the beginning of my college journey was Coastline Community College in Fountain Valley.
So how did that work?
So they're correspondence classes.
Okay.
So they send the homework in. We have the books. We do that. We have proctors to do our tests. And so it's just like that.
But it's an accredited college. You're working towards a degree. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And so, but what really, really, really got me to go and search out why I went from this kid who wanted to become a lawyer, the next Johnny Cochran, in fact, to this deplorable dude, this monster, this cancer to society. I need to figure out how did I get there, and how the hell do I start tearing that down and get back over to this part, get back to my humanity.
Let me pause right there for a second, because I want to just hit that description. You had mentioned earlier that you got to the point where you're working with others, getting them to identify what was that dream. And what I just heard you say was your dream was to be that attorney, that Johnny Cochran.
Yeah.
So you discovered that in yourself. And you also realized that, man, like life brought you down a different path. You made some different decisions. You became that deplorable person. And man, like there's a sense of self-awareness to that. And to then make the determination that you wanted to do things differently.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I was in a class called ACP, man. I always got a shout out my boy, Courtney Raynard, man. He was a good dude, man. Nardy, I always call him my first facilitator. He's still currently in prison. He's got life with the 3 strikes. But this guy, like, if it wasn't for him, man, he really changed my life. In ACP, which is addiction counseling program, which I later became a facilitator of as well. And the greatest thing about this class is they have this bullshit rule. They'll call you on your bullshit. You know, if you give a surface level, hey, I'm gonna call bullshit on you. And it's like, I don't like to do that. You know, I don't want to be the guy in the hot seat. As I told, you know, and I say it all the time, I'd rather put people in the hot seat than be in the hot seat, you know? So he asks a question at the end of class. What made what you did acceptable? So I wanted to just hear up an answer, and he's like, no. Go to your cell and think about it, and then come back tomorrow. So I went to the cell, and I'm like, all right, what made what I did acceptable? Well, you know, it was the lifestyle. Nah, they gonna call bullshit on that. It was either them or me. Nah, that's bullshit. I keep going through all these different reasons, and then I just had to say it. I was selfish. And saying that out loud, man, made me cringe. I was sickened with my own self, like, because now I'm admitting that I'm selfish. That means that I never loved anybody. I didn't love my mom, like I said. I didn't love my brother, like I said. I didn't love me. I didn't love anybody, which is why I was able to become and be so deplorable. Why I can just go and shoot at people like it was nobody. Oh, yeah, it's cool. You know, it's not a video game. It's not a movie. This is real life. But I didn't care because I dropped out of life. So that's what it was. And then once I said that, I was like, no. And I always tell people my last murder was killing off Roscoe, which was my gang moniker. Because I say it all the time. They'll let David out, but Roscoe must die. And so I just gave every ounce of everything I had to just killing this dude off. You know, I had to realize what my warped beliefs were. I had to realize how warped my value system was. What old traditions am I following? You know, and I had a really great friend. He was a staff at Ironwood State Prison, and his name was Earl Pride. And he is actually one of the people most responsible for me even being free. He wrote me a 1-page chrono, which is basically a character letter. Didn't know he was going to do it or anything. I had transferred from that prison to another prison.
Wait, this was Iowa?
No, Ironwood State.
Oh, Ironwood
prison.
State.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I got it, it touched my heart, man. I was like, whoa. And even the commissioner, she said, you know, people come to board, and of course they're in their best behavior. Of course they say everything with, she said, but this chrono shows us and tells us you're this way when we can't see you. You know, and she said, this was one of the hugest factors in us finding you suitable today. And so he had a saying that he had to learn, he had to learn to unlearn what he had learned in order to live. He had to unlearn everything that took him in a negative direction. He had to learn to unlearn that to learn how to live. And he used to always tell us, you guys go 100% all in on the gangs and stuff. Why won't you do that for yourself? And I'm just sitting in the back of the club like, I don't know how that could sit with you, you know, if you really do want to be better. And like that bothered me as well. So that was another pivotal moment in my life that helped me get back to my humanity.
Okay. Well, I'm hearing some of the things that were most instrumental in getting you to change, but I do want to step back for a minute because you mentioned Roscoe,
Yeah.
right? And I'm curious about him because, in my opinion, and I've had the opportunity to deal with many, many organizational gang leaders, people of great influence in those environments. And pretty much every single one of them, like, I saw within them the good, and there was a desire to be able to do something positive with that influence, like overwhelming. And yet a lot of times we just can't find the path, the way to get there. So I'm always curious to hear like what that path looks like to go from Roscoe. Okay, like how long are we talking here? And, you know, what puts you, like when you come into the system, you come in as Roscoe, right?
Yes.
And that's the identity. That's how everybody sees you.
Yeah, that's the mask.
And for those who don't understand, though, there's an advantage there to being Roscoe, right?
Correct.
Because that gives you credibility, it gives you influence. And therefore, when you make the transformation, you're giving permission to others. So
Exactly.
that's a significant part. I don't want to lose sight of that because, you know, there's a period there that transformation has to take place where you begin that shift. And I don't want people to think like you just walked into prison, you were like, man, I'm gonna do things different. You know, like that's at the heart of it, right?
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about that, how Roscoe.
So Roscoe, man, I tell people all the time because I have him in a cage. I was just watching this show called Dracula on Netflix, and I kind of got him in a cage where he can't get out, you know. And I tell people all the time, I'm afraid of that dude. That dude doesn't care. He's, you know, I used to always have this old saying that I would always tell people, I welcome aggression at the door with a dinner plate and house shoes. Like, I want that. I need that in my life. If you want to do something, I invite you to, let's go, let's do it, you know, and show people just how much, even with all the self-help classes, the traces are there. You know, it's moments. I'm a big Marvel fan. You know, it's moments when like Carnage or Venom, when it would just kind of like come out a little bit. And he, you know, kind of go back to normal. And it's like, I was going to parole board. A week before I was going to parole board, I was on the basketball court playing with somebody, playing basketball, and a dude was like, I got crossed over real bad. It was ugly. I knew it was gonna happen. The dude I was guarding is my buddy Payne, and he's wicked fast. And I really didn't have any business sticking him, but I had to. He lost somebody else, so kind of had to. And so another dude's laughing. Ah! I'm like, all right, bro, all right. Ah! I'm like, man, you know, shut up, bro. You're doing too much. Ah! Dude, you sound like a bitch. And he was just like,
Uh-oh.
you better watch your mouth. Like, or what? What you gonna do? But it was in that moment that he didn't see me as David. He saw Roscoe, and he didn't do nothing. And I'm not saying that as a brag, like, yeah, that's how tough I was, but I'm saying that it's like, you can still, don't like, just always kind of try to stay on your square. Always be like mindful of your surroundings, because in that moment, I could have threw away everything that I was working for. Just for that one slip. That one time he just kind of stuck his head up a little bit, you know?
I hear exactly what you're saying. And I would agree, like it's such a fine line, especially when you're living within those environments. You live in a fishbowl, right? Everybody knows, everybody sees everything. And to maintain your credibility and your influence, it's a fine line to walk, right?
Yes.
So sometimes
you gotta remind people sometimes.
Yeah, you got to remind people that that's still there, that it's a choice.
Exactly.
Decision to live a certain way. And I think that's necessary, right? Like
yes.
That keeps the natural order of things.
Yeah.
And I think people need to see that. And we need to just literally acknowledge that it's there, man. It's not a bad thing.
Right. It's kind of, and it's like, you know, because I don't want to glance over, because I do want to talk about Roscoe. So this Roscoe was a dude who he wanted to be, I would just say, like, I don't want to be from the hood. I want when people talk about the hood, they bring me up. Like, yeah, oh, Raymond Crip. Oh, man, what's up with my boy Roscoe? Like, I wanted to be that dude. I wanted to be what in Los Angeles gang culture, they call it a household name, where people just, oh, yeah, that's. And so I was always fighting, always, politicking, which is basically being messy and being in other people's business and trying to dictate other people's lives because you really don't have control over your own life that much. So, we always get together. Yeah, man, what's up? I heard you owe some money. Yeah, man, we, whole bunch of that, but they call it politicking, So that's what I was always about. I just, I wanted to be involved in anything and everything because I wanted to be that guy. I wanted some people, oh yeah, I always had an influential voice wherever I went. Either I was, giving out rules or I was the one helping enforce the rules. I was always at the round table. And to me, that was important because I knew how much time I was looking at. I knew what could happen. So I'm like, if I'm gonna have to do all this time, I want to be able to do it in a comfortable manner. You see the dudes who didn't put in all that work when they come in off the top, people are breaking them off, whatever it is they got. They selling weed. Hey man, here I bought you a couple of sticks, man. Here's, go ahead and get acclimated. Oh, good looking. Like I wanted to be that same dude too. When dudes hit for stuff, I wanted the dude to just walk, hey man, here. Or you sitting there talking to a guy and they be like, hey, you smoke cigarettes? You're like, yeah. Like, hey, come by later. I got some bugler for you. Like, oh, okay, for sure. Good looking out. And so that's who Roscoe was. And so he didn't care what he had to do to get to that level. But in hindsight, it was pretty much, it was like a negative blessing. And I know that's an oxymoron. But the reason why I said it is because of the respect that Roscoe had when it was time to transform and get back to David, I was able to do it in peace. And I was able to always be able to talk to dudes who were quote unquote reputables. I can be in a class and I can basically call somebody out and it's just like, man, all right, homie. Like, hey, excuse me, you guys want to fill us in on what you're talking about? Hey, my bad. All right, come on. And he like, what was even more like,
I want to pause there for just a second.
No problem.
Because for those who are watching this that aren't going to understand what you're talking about, what I very clearly understand is the level of respect that you had allowed you to say certain things and to carry yourself and to confront people in a way like in that classroom setting, like, hey man, I'm serious. Like I need you to pay attention, where most guys can't do that
at all. And the guy, man, the guy who was running CGA, which is Criminal Gang Anonymous, he's actually free, man. It's a good buddy of mine. His name is Robert Salas. And that's kind of how he picked. Like, he picked, himself because he had, respect amongst his people. He's a Southsider. He had certain, and it was like with the blacks, you kind of don't know. He's like, so they kind of try to, hey, what's this guy's reputation? Because they like, we need somebody who can keep that race in check because it's the main line, But I had so much respect, and a lot, and then first a lot of it came from my gang lifestyle, and then a lot of it came from dudes realizing that here was a dude that's really down and is doing everything to change, and I started having influence with like the Southsiders, the whites. I even did a thing to where I stopped calling guys by their last name in groups and everybody had to go by their first name. And even on the yard, we would call each other by our first names. And I remember this Southsider came up to me and said, man, you're responsible for that, right? I said, what? He said, look, you got homies out here calling each other Carlos and, Victor and Ricardo. He's like, these dudes
by
are
their
really,
governments.
yeah, he's like, these guys are really influential.
Yeah.
He's like, and they respect you that much. And Spivey, and I was like, no problem. And I remember I didn't know this guy even had was very influential, but I just stayed on him in group one day so hard till he finally gave me a substantial answer. I asked why he carried a gun, and he thought, oh, lifestyle. And I was like, nope, dig deeper. He said, so, nope, dig deeper. Nope, dig deeper. And I could tell I'm really pissing him off because number one, for those who don't know, no race likes another race talking to them, but the Hispanics and white boys really hate for black people to be trying to like check them or saying something to them. And it's really vice versa. Like we all can't stand each other. So I can see this freaking black dude. I'm like, nope, dig deeper. And then he finally says, it made me feel powerful. I say, that's what I'm talking about. And you can see like the others, like Hispanics kind of like, everybody's kind of like on edge. And he goes, and they go like, and from that moment, I just was like, that was just my, like, I was like very aggressive. You know, I took the aggressiveness from the gangs and I put it inside the group. And that's how I taught. I was just very aggressive with people, and people, everybody who took it serious, they're all home. Mm. You know what I mean? Like one guy, I call him Mr. Insight, man, Sergio. And this guy went to jail for double attempted murder on the police. He has cop killer tattoo on his neck.
Wow.
He's free.
Really?
He's doing extremely well. Just had a baby.
How did he get out?
Bored.
Whew. Because that's a tough
exactly.
One. That's a tough
exactly.
One. Exactly.
But when you have the insight, when your behavior matches your words, because I always tell people, you write how you think. In California prisons, you have to write a lot of insight papers. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, you write the way you think. Change the way you think. Change the way you write. You know, stop just thinking about BS and then you trying to write some good stuff. You got to change everything. That's where it starts. Change those thoughts. You'll change those urges. You'll change those feelings, and then you'll change those actions.
I love that, man. I love that. And I got to applaud you because first and foremost, it takes a lot of courage to step out there and to be honest with yourself, you know, to acknowledge responsibility for everything in your life that has led you to where you are. That's a tough thing to do in prison, right?
It is.
Be like, damn, okay, so I made all these mistakes, regardless of anybody else who told on me, other circumstances, the cops, the DAs, like regardless of all that, like I did this. Mm-hmm. That's the first part. The second part, which I'm really, so many of the things that I'm hearing, like I follow, I hope everybody else hearing this can really follow and understand the level of courage and mental fortitude that it took for you to be able to help others transform their lives, to do it from that position where those are some tough conversations to have. And when people push back, to keep pushing them, because you want to see that best come out of them. Man, that's tough to do that in that environment. I understand that. I hope everybody else has a full appreciation for what you've done. And if that doesn't demonstrate it, that you have a former cop killer, blasted on him, was clearly proud of that at one time, gets granted parole, you know, that's like, man, that's the ultimate example right there of how impactful what you were doing, how impactful your influence was in helping others transform their lives. Amazing.
Yeah, man, because I took it serious. You know, like I would tell dudes, like I even started my own group, right? Communication of Freedom. And so the beauty of me starting my own group, it wasn't for like the accolades of like, oh, I started my own group. So in California, they started doing these RAC credits, Rehabilitation Achievement Credits. So now it went from, you know, we put who we want in the groups to the community resource manager putting whoever in the group. Mm. So now here it is, you got a room or a class that guys with life desperately need and used to be all lifers. Now 25% is guys with 2.5 and 3.85 and they're not there to find out who they are and how to get better. They're there for RAC credits. You know, get enough of them, they get 15 days off their sentence or 7 days. So they just sit. But see, that's the beauty of being Roscoe, because I made those guys participate. You know, one of the guys from a rival neighborhood, a neighborhood that we hate them, they hate us. He just hit me up on Instagram, was like, yo, big bro, I'm home. Man, I remember the push. I remember everything you taught. And this is a guy who, at one point in his life, he swore an allegiance to kill me.
Yeah.
And I swore an allegiance to kill him, but when he met me, my bullets didn't have hate in them anymore. Mm-hmm. They had future in them. See, I now was shooting at people's hearts to get them to change. You know what I mean? I wanted them to see, hey, look, brother, all this that you've done for this neighborhood, you can do this for yourself. You can invest that much in yourself, and then sky's the limits. Because, see, I knew that I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And so I used the classrooms as my gyms. You know, I used to tell people all the time, if you're going to brick in the gym. If you're going to overthrow the runner, do it on the practice field. If you're going to strike out, do it at batting practice. That way, when the big game comes and everybody's counting on you, you exceed expectations. And that's how you do it.
Love that, man. So you were able to use that as your training ground as well.
Yeah.
While you not only transformed yourself, you're helping others transform their lives. And I heard you just say that part of that vision, I'm sure there's a big vision that you created while you were inside, because we got a lot of time to think. And it sounds like you were very intentional about what you wanted. So tell me what that vision looked like. And then when you get that stamp of, bam, you're being paroled, man, you're out. And then what happens?
So that vision that I created, I see myself, and I still play the vision. I see myself selling out these big arenas, people coming to hear me talk, me being able to pierce their hearts and get them to be their best selves. You know, I always say my goal is to change 1 billion lives, but I know for a fact I can't do that at one time. So I just want to change one person at a time, and then give them enough tools and skills and allow them to help somebody else change their lives. And then the billion will be reached, because then it'll be a chain effect. It just keep going and keep going and keep going. That's my ultimate goal. You know, I want to be able to go and look at a little young man or a young woman and tell them that everything they heard up to this point has been a lie. You're not what they're saying. You're so much more. Like, I want to let them know that they have so much greatness in them. And it is not attached to where they are, what they used to be into, or what they even are in. Because these are things you do. We all used to play freeze tag as kids. You know, right now, if we just got a game of freeze tag going, it'd probably be fun, but if other people just watched it, they'd be like, those guys are weird. And then you ask, why is that weird? Because that's some kid stuff. Why? So that's stuff you used to do. So we constantly change. So I don't want people to get so caught up in what they're doing, but go and look at, where am I going to go? Because we do things every single day that's not who we are.
So what was that vision for you while you were in there? What did you decide that you wanted to do on the other side?
As far as while I was behind the wall?
Yeah.
I just wanted to get dudes, because I figure like this, if everybody focused on going home, dudes won't have too much time to focus on being in jail and riots and this and that. Mm-hmm. Because, see, I was playing chess. I realized, okay, if riots happen, I'm going to have to be involved in these riots. That's going to lessen my chances of going home as well. Mm-hmm. Why not bring peace? Why not get guys to get comfortable enough to be called by their real names, to sit outside with a black dude? And one of the most things that touched my heart the most, I remember this skinhead, big country-fed white boy. Like, I need the audience to close their eyes and think of like any stereotypical movie you've seen with the big white boy with a bald head and a slingshot on. That was him. And this guy had the boot tattooed on his head, which was influential. And he comes to me and says, man, Spivey, you made me a better man. And my chills ran through my body because I felt that was my stamp of approval. That this guy, with all his racist ideology, walks up to a black guy and tells him something like that. And it kind of lit me even further. It was like, okay, I felt like that was rocket fuel put into the car. Now I can't go 70 miles. I'm only going 700, so I just kept going and kept going and kept going. And, they say in order to keep what you have, you got to give it away.
Absolutely.
So I knew that there was a possibility that I was going. That was my vision. I will go home. And I was telling John yesterday, I said, when I started changing my life, it wasn't within, all right, I'm going to do all this stuff so I can go home. Because if I would have done that, I would not be home. Because that means it would have been shallow. It would have been surface level change, And even if I would have been smart enough to trick the board, eventually, like at the circus, even the clowns had to take off the paint, I would have fell back into old habits.
Yep.
Right? And so I used to prepare myself. When you come home, everybody can pretend like they missed you. They loved you. They so happy you home. And sure enough, his water is wet. Get phone calls. Oh, cuz, what's up? I'm like, I almost got something. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, nah, these punks didn't miss me. They knew exactly where the hell I was at. You guys even know the system.
Yeah.
I didn't get no wasn't getting J-Pays from you guys. That's how they send money electronically, folks. So, and if you have a loved one, send them a J-Pay. They'll love you even more for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't even need to be much.
It doesn't. No. Send them $20, and I bet you get a letter or a card.
Yep.
And because guys in jail are notorious for going to get a card made, and like $5 for a card is a lot of money in jail, and it's gonna be a really good card. So
support the hustle.
Yeah, they'll eat 15, and they'll help somebody else stay alive with the other 5.
That's right.
And so that's just what it was, man. And I just kept saying like, okay, I have to change because I can't live with myself no more.
Mm-hmm.
With the death of my mom, the death of my brother, I'm like, I'm responsible for making somebody's family feel this exact same way. I'm responsible when the mom cooks one extra portion more than she needs to. I'm responsible for the breakdowns when they hear their favorite song or they smell a scent that reminds them of their lost one. I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible for anybody who didn't get to enjoy their full childhood because I made the neighborhood unsafe. I'm responsible for the employee that got fired because I used to steal out the store and now the owner couldn't afford to pay them and stay. I'm responsible for all this stuff. I'm responsible for the guys that I recruited into the gang and who haven't changed their lives, and then all the people that they victimized. So I have a lot to do and a lot of righteous living to do in order to try to make up for, because I know I'll never be able to unright a lot of my wrongs, but I just want to live in honor of all my victims.
Well put, man. Well put. So you come in and there were some, your own traumatic events that helped instigate this change. That was what, 2010?
2010 is when I got sentenced. 2011 is my mother's passing. 2012, my brother passed.
Okay. That's a lot in a very short period of time. And for those who don't know, if you've never been in prison, man, living in that environment, like 1 month is a long time. 1 year can seem like forever. And when you start racking up those years, man, that's a lot of time. And especially when you got it hanging over your head. So you had how much time were you sentenced to?
So originally it was 100 years to life.
Wait, 100 years
to life.
See, we left that part out. We're gonna have to put that in the tagline there, because 100 years to life.
It ended up getting reduced all the way down to 58 years to life, but
just 50.
It's nothing after that, just walk in the park. So through all this rehabilitation, I even had I got resentenced once. That's how I ended up to the 58 years to life, and the district attorney's office commended me on my exemplary efforts of rehabilitation.
Wow.
And so
for anybody that doesn't know,
that's
to get
major.
a DA to weigh in positively on your behalf, like that don't ever happen.
It's kind of like against their religion.
Yeah, there you go.
And so when I saw that, I remember before they, resentenced me, my district attorney, 'cause I was prosecuted by the hardcore gang division. And so Allison Otrowski, man, she was a pit bull in a skirt. Like, shout out to her for getting me off the streets during those times, because, I was a bad guy. And so I come back down. She goes, before you resentence, the district attorney like to go on record and commend Mr. And that's another thing that's really big.
She was the same one?
Yes.
Wow, really?
And so she went on record, because she could have just said that after the record was closed.
She's
like, we would like to go on record and commend Mr. Spivey his exemplary efforts in self-rehabilitation. Damn. And so I went.
Damn, how did you catch their attention? Because to me, like, you told me about the letter. Like, they had to have heard more. Like, they had to have more insights, because you don't get a DA to stand up and especially go on the record in support of you getting less time, of a judge reducing your sentence. So what was getting back to them?
So that time when I came down, I had a bunch of my certificates and stuff mailed in as far as character reference
Okay.
to show the judge what I was doing. And then also I went to school because I had a GED, but they were doing a high school diploma, and so I was like, well, let me go get that. And so if I could have stayed in the county jail one more week, I'd have had a high school diploma too. And so like I used to be just doing homework, and what was so cool about it is I remember one of my homeboys said, he said, "Hey, cuz, you know you trending." I said, "Why you say that?" He like, you know, you got these dudes doing homework. These mugs don't
That's
ever do
right.
nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I looked around, and dudes really was in there doing homework.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I remember the South Side who had the dorm. I remember he was like, "Hey man, you're really smart." He's like, "I like that." He was like, "You need anything? Let me know, bro." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I remember they had wine. I was like, "Yeah, let me get some of that wine. I need to do halftime today." And so he's like, "No problem." But yeah, I was going to school. The teachers that were, they were all like, I remember one of the teachers like, "Hey, Spivey, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "What are you in jail for?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Murder." She's like, "No, I'm not judging you. I'm just shocked because that's the last thing I thought." She's like, "I thought maybe you like paying tickets off or something." Like, she's like, "You're too smart." And I was like, "Yeah, but I was also real stupid, you know?"
I would say even more than the smart. Allowing your intelligence to show as part of it, but I like what you said earlier. You know, it's deeper. It's your character. When your actions, you know, are different, when your thoughts and your actions are aligned, that level of integrity, man, people notice that. And clearly, you had a lot of people who were attracted to what you were putting out, who chose to get behind you. And considering, you know, anytime we're talking about violent offenses, cop killer, a homicide, anything that's violent, man, to get somebody to back you, that's really, really difficult. So again, it speaks to what you were putting out, the significance of it, that other people took notice. You get this time knocked down, you go to court. What year is this?
So this was 2000 and I think 16.
16.
So
Okay.
this was like a little. They was a 15-year life sentence. They reversed it to 3 years and 5 years enhancement. So it was 8 years. So for the first degree murder, it was 25 to life for the murder, 25 to life for the gun, and then now the 8 years because the 35 years to life for conspiracy to commit murder was stayed, and then the attempted murder charge I was found not guilty of, and so. I go back to prison. Then they come up with this Franklin case. And so basically it's where you get to set the record for an upcoming youth offender hearing. And for me, it would have been like in 13 years. So I go down, set the record, we do all that, but I come back and Governor Jerry Brown, the governor of California, was commuting people's sentences. And it was so funny because I told a buddy of mine, we were looking in the paper, I said, next year my name's going to be in there. You know, because I'm really big on manifesting. I'm like, next year my name's going to be in there. And he's like, you think so? I said, no, I know so. So I go back, my two buddies who are both free as well. One had 50 years of life, the other had 31 years. We all got our sentence commuted. So I come back and they're like, yo, did you put in your commutation? Did you file for it? I'm like, no. They're like, man, you got to. I'm like, damn, are you guys going to 2-on-1 me or something like that? Like, so that's jumping in prison terms. So they're like, man, you got to do it, bro. I'm like, all right. So I ended up getting transferred from C yard back to D yard. And so I wrote the governor's office, you know, I asked for an application and I got it back, you know. Then I filled it out. It took me maybe about a month to put that together, sent it out. Next thing you know, I got interviewed by an investigator for the parole board. So now you wait for the next step, whether they're going to commute it or not. And that was so freaking stressful. And
just a little bit on the line there, right?
Yeah, right. Like, you know, Eagles going to the Super Bowl if this happens. Like, no, my freaking life, you know what I mean? So I'll never forget. And it's like kind of a sad part, but like not sad now because I'm free and I'm not with her. But this girl that I was talking to, she was supposed to come visit me, but she lied. Yeah. Can y'all believe her, ladies? Like, so I was like, I was in the room and I was like, man, God, I just need some good news. And I remember having a dream, and in my dream, I was playing chess with this Filipino cat that I used to go to groups with, Edwin, and they tell me my sentence is commuted. Fast forward to that day, because I had that dream like 2.5 weeks prior. I'm in the day room playing chess with Edwin. My door opens up. So I look, I'm see, what the hell is my door getting popped for? And then the tower cop, he's like, hey, Spivey. He's like, come here. And so there was another guy named Abel who had got his sentence commuted. So he told me how it happened, that they called him, said program. And so I kind of knew what, like, if it was going to happen.
Yeah.
He's like, 12 o'clock. And I was like, program office? He's like, yeah. I was like, he's like, dude, calm down. I'm like, oh, okay. What is it? He's like, yeah, you got a meeting at 12. I was like, yeah, I know. And so I go.
Now, what time is this?
This is 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh man, you had 4 hours.
Yeah, I'm just like shaking, like I need caffeine and sugar and everything else. So I'm just like, oh gosh. And I'm like, I tell him like, yo, they just commuted my sentence, bro. He's like, are you? I'm like, I gotta go get the official news at 12. So he's like, what the? So they pop my door. I run. For people who don't know, when they call you to the program office, it's not usually good news. It's usually you've gotten a write-up, you're going to get some more time added on, or you're going to get some privilege taken away. So dudes usually walk to the program office very, very slow. But on this day, I was like Sonic the freaking Hedgehog. I probably made record history as the fastest inmate ever to go to the program office. So I knock on the door, and I step back, and dudes are like going to hey, what's going on? Like, I think they're going to commute my sentence. They're like, what? Okay, Spivey, that's what's up. And it was around Christmas time.
Oh, man.
So now I'm kind of trending inside the visiting room. Everybody's like, hey, man, Spivey's, when I left, he was standing outside of the program office, man. He don't know. Then another, hey, you got a sentence commuted. And these are Southsiders telling me, like, they're all happy for me and stuff like that. I never forget that, man. It was just like, but the day when they told me after I got found suitable for parole, they told me I was going home. Yeah, I let out a scream that was so loud that the captain told me, dude, I almost laid the yard down because of that. I was like, yeah, I'm going home. He was like, hey, was that you screaming like that? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude. He said, I was all the way over there. He said, I heard it. He said, I almost hit the button that freaking just later. He said, just because I didn't know what the hell that was.
Yeah, people aren't used to hearing
that, right? And I was just like, okay, cool.
And people in prison don't ever have reason to get that excited. Right?
Right. Yeah, there's never a reason that good.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just like all the hard work, all the shots, and like Kobe said, like, just all them hours in the gym, just shooting until your wrist tired, just, staying up to 4 o'clock in the morning, going over self-help, going over my triggers, going over the warning signs that show that I'm about to get angry, understanding what situations could put me back in the relapse. All that stuff was just like, it was really, really hard work. And a lot of times when you get on that path in prison, it's a lonely path because most guys lack the courage to want to step outside. Not saying that they're cowards, but just the courage to stand alone, Yep. And that's like one of the biggest things about peer pressure is the psychological, aspirations of it, or aspects, I should say, of it, because it's like, you might not be afraid of people or jump on you, but you're afraid of people not want to talk to you again. You're afraid of people making jokes about you. You're afraid of the dude that you've been walking on the yard with for 15 years, if he's going to speak to you tomorrow and how bad that's going to hurt, So I understand, and that's that warped way of thinking, because I went through it, my buddies went through it, and when you get on the right path, it may be lonely, but eventually you'll find people that are on that same path.
Well, I guarantee you there are still individuals inside, we're talking about Spivey, right?
Yeah, we actually went back inside of Ironwood State Prison and talked to the fellas, and seeing so many old dudes, it was heartbreaking though, because it's like I now know what it feels like to walk out of here free, and I know that right now that if something happens, I'm not involved in it, and two, we'll be escorted out of here, and but for me, and that it's like, I believe it was Robert Kiyosaki that says, when you do your goals, put a little bit of revenge in there. And so seeing these COs, who used to just make all these little brass remarks, yeah, man, they say some stuff that, but seeing their faces, and they're just like I remember once I was like, Spivey? I was like, what's up with you, my boy? And he's like, what the? I was like, I told you I was going to get free. He's like, yeah, I know, but I didn't believe you. I said, yeah, and you the one still in prison. And he just looked at me and he gave me a look like, you ain't never lied. Because a lot of people don't know that either. Like, guards do as much time as we do, because you have to stop living life like a civilian.
Yep.
You have to, even though they're not quote unquote cops, they're prison cops. And then they have to start having a different mind. You can't be giving people the benefit of the doubt. And you think like that for so long, you're going to just become an asshole. And, here it is, you're angry at life because you're always in prison. And you see an inmate walking around, they see me and you walking around laughing and stuff, cracking jokes. It's just like, hell, you guys smiling.
Right.
And I'm over here freaking frowning since I walked through the door. So seeing there, that was one of my best revenges.
That's a big win. That's a big win, getting to go back in there. And I have no doubt, that you were a huge inspiration to all of those others who knew you. That story got shared with others, and who knows how far that influence spreads. Like you said, you're shooting for that 1 billion. So that's a big part of it. And I guarantee that many of those officers too, have had to take a second look at themselves and reassess, how they're looking at individuals in there. And hopefully that positively impacts them. So since you've been out, I mean, you had an incredible journey on the inside. You get this release. I mean, you express that with a scream.
Yeah, man.
Hit the ground running. Tell us where you are now. What are you doing?
So right now I'm working in a mental hospital.
Okay.
So in the BHU, I'm a mental health worker. Going to school to become a nurse, just because I have a deep passion and empathy for people, especially like those with mental health issues.
Okay.
Because it's very gut-wrenching to see a person have to repeat life over and over of the worst moment of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that you can deal with those individuals is through like a great deal of love and compassion and empathy. And so that kind of inspired me to go back to school. But I'm also just, like I said, my end goal is to be a paid motivator. Like I'm manifesting to be like with the top guys when it comes to speaking. So that's my ultimate goal. I have a YouTube channel where I live stream and then make videos.
Plug it.
It's called Real Recognized Real Podcast. But that's because I had to change it, spell it out more. But if you go on YouTube and type in triple, TRIPPLE, space R, space podcast, you can see this face pop right up. Go ahead, subscribe, get the notification bell. I guarantee you, go look at some of the old content. It's relevant today as it will be in 100 years from now. And then I also I've started developing a clothing line called Stay Great Above Hate.
All right.
It's an anti-bullying clothing brand. It's dedicated for anybody who's ever been bullied, and not just the traditional form of bullying, but anybody who's been bullied by the system based on socioeconomical status, gender identity, sexual identity, whatever it is. If somebody's discriminated against you, this brand is for you. It's called Stay Great Above Hate. We're on Instagram, Stay Great Above Hate _clothing. That's what I'm doing. My end goal, man, I want to be able to Like I said, I want to help. So I've always said that, and because Jay-Z is like one of the guys that I look up to. And so I look at like, you can do a lot of stuff for people, like the more you have, because I always say, you tell kids a lot of times, oh, you should stop gang banging or you should stop selling drugs. Okay, what should I do? What am I going to do now? And so like my goal is to like get this clothing line off the ground, get very influential with my speaking career, open up my own like academy and train young men and young women how to be proper. And what I mean by proper is how to throw away warped beliefs in order to live a better life, a much more productive life, And so that's why I network my ass off, because I want to be able to say like, hey, let me call John. Let me call one of my buddies. Hey, I got this guy, man. I remember you said you needed somebody with this. This guy's perfect. Hey, let me call, And that's how you change the world, man. Is because these kids, they have all this energy, but they have nothing to express it. That's the tagging on the wall. Like I tell people all the time, like, dude, if you do that in the creative space, you can sell it.
That's right.
It's not destroying property then. Mm-hmm. People who sell drugs, that means you're good at sales. How about you stop before you get a record, become a pharmaceutical salesperson, or whatever it may be.
Yep.
If you like to argue a lot, law school's for you.
Oh, we know attorneys love to argue, man.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, dude. Find your gifts. Clearly, you have found your gift. You're already impacting countless lives. I have no doubt you're going to continue on that trajectory. However we can support you, man, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, but this is just the beginning. Whatever I can do, however Gritability can help get that message out there. Listen, click that subscribe button, go on there, follow. All this will be up in the notes. Man, make sure you follow David Spivey Jr. The third. Spivey, like Spidey. Get out there, follow him, and listen, whatever we can do to promote you and help you get to that platform of impacting a billion lives, man, we're here for you. I appreciate you for coming in.
I appreciate this.
It's been another incredible episode of Gritability, Power of Perseverance. You're seeing it right here, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. Appreciate all you guys. We'll see you right back here on the next episode.
Damn.
Man, listen, I could have kept talking for another hour because I got